So, when I was a child, I had just one job, and that was to water the front garden. The front garden was the garden with flowers and trees and a lawn. The back garden was a vegetable garden. That one I did not water. So, as a result, I developed a very intimate relationship with flowers. I began to realize that they bloom according to season. I began to realize just how incredible, versatile they were in adapting to different weather patterns, and how incredibly strong they were and flexible they were to insects lodging themselves on them, to us sometimes even cutting them. To today, I cannot cut flowers because I realize that I am destroying something in the essence of their being. However, this fortunately gave me a great understanding of intuition, and I immediately transferred it to eating instinctively as well. Because I noticed that the creatures around the flowers and in the garden, they all seem to always be drawn almost like a magnet to eating certain things, like the butterflies and the bees always went to certain flowers but not others, some plants but not others. And as a child myself, I only wanted to eat fruits all the time. That's all I wanted to eat. And I never understood, even as a child, the attraction of fruit bowls. I didn't understand why we were mixing all the fruit together all the time, because I was a mono eater and I just loved eating a whole bowl of just papayas or pineapples or bananas or whatever. And it inspired me now. My childhood and my only job that I had as a child inspires me now to look at our lives and look at why we were born to eat instinctively. Look at the other animals in the wild. If we do not go and trap them into our pens and our farms and our homes, and we leave them to live in the wild, in nature, they don't get the illnesses and diseases that we do. They only get them when we then pull them into our own limited environments and our concrete environment, and we start feeding them ourselves instead of letting them eat instinctively, letting them wander until they find something where they can go, someplace they can go to eat what it is that they desire. And they will trek far and wide. They will even cross rivers and swim, just like we used to do for our own food. We no longer swim across a river, a lake, or a pond, or even entire seas and oceans to get to where the food is anymore. We no longer walk and trek and hike for kilometers just to find our food anymore. Now it comes trucked into us by many hands who have touched it, many energies that have been around it, which is what we end up eating. People do not realize they do not eat just the taste, that we eat with our eyes, with our ears, with our fingers or tongue. We eat with all of our senses, not just the sense of taste. And we are also eating the consciousness of the foods. Everything in nature has a consciousness to it. But when we demolish it and we do whatever we can to disintegrate and to also rupture that consciousness, we end up getting sick. And illness then comes in. So isn't illness the gift? You see, we were born, yes, with some genetic issues that was inherited from our parents or grandparents. But if we look back, originally, we were born not to be ill, but to be well. So illness is an artificial construct. Illness is an artificial response by the body to say, stop, stop, pay attention. This is not who you are. This is not who you need to be. And then, instead of listening to this tiny but persistent voice within inside ourselves, we listen instead to advertisements. We have billboards that we've plastered all over, so we cannot miss them. We see advertisements on the telly. We hear when we're listening to music, all of a sudden an ad will come in very very subliminally, and tell us to eat cereals, bowl of cereals, and all these fragmented things that we call food, or that we misname food. They're not even food-like substances. I was teaching a workshop in Chicago once, and I was telling the group that I really have a problem calling any of these things that we now are so blinded by advertisement to eat or to put in our mouth, because most of us don't even chew, so I can't even say that we eat, and the digestive system doesn't know what to do with these artificial substances. So we're not really eating. We're just plugging ourselves up and just keeping our bodies in the lowest states that it can possibly be. And I was telling them that I do have a problem calling it food. And in my first book, Celebrating Our Raw Nature, I said in the book that I cannot call it food, and I would love to have another name for it. And one of the people who was there had read the book beforehand and said, "Oh, I have a name for you." And I was thrilled. So, of course, I eagerly said, "What is it?" And he said, "Pood." I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Pood." P for processing, H-O-O-D, pood. I loved it. I loved it because it's no longer food. So I now call it pood, and I really want to thank him so much. I don't recall his name. This was many years ago. And I want to thank you wherever you are. And I haven't forgotten. I promised you then that I would start using it too, so thank you. So when we eat these food, what happens is our body doesn't recognize anything, because our bodies are chemical factories. They're electrically charged chemical factories. And we have much more bacteria in our body than we have cells that make up our body. And we have these, what we call friendly bacteria, that will gobble up and eat and get rid of the toxicity coming in that naturally occurs in weather patterns and when things are being released in the atmosphere. So if we take care of our bodies, it will also take care of us. We are not naturally we're exposed to many different things in our environment, but we're not naturally ill. That is not who we are. Illness is simply a byproduct of her going against the laws of nature. And it's a wake-up call. It's actually a gift. It's a wake-up call to say, stop. Stop and look at what you are doing. Stop and recognize that you're overloading us, and these are the cells of the body and the bacteria speaking to us. You are overloading us, and you are putting on us a huge amount of stress to which we are now unable to respond, because the lymph is now blocked. The sewage system, which we call the lymph, is now blocked. So the kidneys, which are the pathways through which the sewage comes out, is now also diminished and blocked. And the adrenals on top of it, which are the neurotransmitters of the body, are operating at their lowest levels. So stop. Just stop. And that is what many of us call a fast. Those of us who have been fasting and understand the beauty of fasting in all the major religions and cultures of the world, that's what we call a fast. That's when we need to fast. So I will be fasting starting this evening until Sunday, because I have my show on Sunday, so I'll be breaking it then. And it's very important that we look at illness and say thank you. Thank you for reminding me of who I am, that I'm a powerful being who has put disempowered things in my body, who has given my own thoughts, feelings, and emotions and decisions over to a world of people that do not have my highest, most evolutionary interests at heart. People who just want to sell me things that will diminish me and disempower me so that I no longer think for myself. But wake up. Wake up and take your powers back. When we start eating instinctively, which is what the animals who've been left to their own devices do, we will thrive just like they do. And when we don't thrive, they don't either, because then we give off all this toxicity, toxic gases in the atmosphere, and we start polluting the atmosphere. And then they also get sick. So they also cannot assist us in our food supply in making sure we have a steady array of food supply at the highest electrical charges possible. So it affects everything and everyone. So when we start eating instinctively, and what do I mean by eating instinctively? Eating according to what our bodies tell us. But most of us are not interested in what our bodies tell us. We do not want to hear the messages from it. We never have been in touch with it because it was beaten out of us, shamed out of us, yelled out of us, or raped out of us. Some of us have gone through the worst traumas possible. And so to eat instinctively is just something that we can't even imagine doing anymore, because all our lives we have been fed things that have no relationship to food, and we have been abused in ways that have disempowered us to the point where just thinking for ourselves, or just thinking about how do I now eat and live instinctively, has become a burden. So let me help take that burden away from you. I am doing these tete-a-tetes on weekdays, Mondays to Fridays, here 5 to 10 minutes, called the Elegantly Raw Tidbits. Please participate by either subscribing below and clicking the notification button, or by simply commenting your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own issues, your own solutions below. Let's do this together as I continue. It's a series of different topics that I continue, all with the object of empowering us. So I will be talking more about eating instinctively, and I wish for you to join in the conversation because your voice is important as well. Thank you.